Who's gonna take care of my coochie?
Hello, 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 hello. We are back again for Traitors Season 4, Episode 5. And oh my god, was this an episode. Wow. So, the episode opens on a new day. We see the players arrive at breakfast, and Eric, Natalie, Dorinda, and Candace are the first to arrive. First of all, I love this obsession with the salmon. I don't think they've been obsessed with the salmon in the past. Maybe they have. Maybe this is the first year they have smoked salmon, but it's kind of funny. I feel like every episode, the first people at the breakfast table are always like, "Ooh, is there smoked salmon? Let's grab it." And I'm like, by the time the other people show up to breakfast, people are like, "Wait, there's no salmon left. I'm so sad." So I think that's kind of hilarious, especially because I love salmon, but I'm not a fan of smoked salmon. So I think it's kind of funny how everyone's obsessed with it. But on another note, Natalie, girl, you need a stylist. I'm so sorry to tell this to you. We are 5 episodes in, and I do not think Natalie has landed one outfit yet. In this episode, she's wearing some sort of snakeskin long sleeve crop top and jeans. It looks like you're going to the club, girl. We're not going to the club. You're in a castle in Scotland. What? Anyway, we then see Dorinda say that not Don. We see Dorinda say Ron goes from being a victim to an accuser, and basically during the day and throughout the non-round table, he makes no effort to talk to people. She says she doesn't know anything about him, about his family, where he lives, and he kind of is just standoffish. We then see the second group arrive to breakfast, and it's Kristen, Colton, Rob, and some others. And you guys, Rob brought the overalls back. I can't believe I didn't make a bingo card and put on that bingo card that Rob would be wearing his overalls in this season. I can't believe that didn't even cross my mind. I mean, I guess it's you're not in Mallorca, you're not on an island, where do they go in the USA? Do they go to Fiji? You're not in Fiji. So it seemed maybe too cold to wear overalls, but none, and they're so dumb. They're so dumb. They're so Alabama. I'm so sorry, Rob, but you look great in them. I hate the way they look, but I love the way you look in them. Does that make sense? I got to see his chest, his side trunk. We got to see it all, but it was why is this your signature outfit? It's I have a love-hate relationship with Rob's overalls, I think. I can't come to a conclusion. Anyway, Ron then arrives, and nobody moved. No, crickets. Absolute crickets. We see a confessional of Ron where he's like, geez, I haven't gotten applaud this tepid since I started doing stand-up. I thought that was really funny. Then Colton explains, oh, this is important for later, okay? So we see Colton at the table. It's Colton, the main characters of this conversation are Colton, Dorinda, and Natalie. And I don't know how the conversation got started, but Natalie basically says something oh, you guys know about Colton on The Bachelor, right? And they're no. And she basically explains that I guess Colton, when he went on The Bachelor, went on as a straight guy looking for a woman. Obviously, he did not realize he was gay yet. But Dorinda's basically shocked at this, and she's like, wow, I wish I got to try and date you during that time period. But essentially, we learn some very critical information that Colton has not always been, or he has not always known that he is gay. He very recently came out of the closet, okay? Keep that in your back pocket for later. So, Maura then arrives, and he's where the fuck is the smoked salmon? And I'm you guys, what about the hard-boiled eggs? Does anybody like hard-boiled eggs? Toast? Bacon? scrambled eggs. I don't know. So finally everyone arrives at the breakfast table. Tara and Johnny are the last, and we ultimately see that Monet has been murdered. Tragic. Honestly, very, very sad that Monet is leaving. However, we see Monet, go to the reading room, open up the letter that says he has in fact been murdered. And Monet's bummed, of course. We do, however, get a confessional look from Monet where he's just discussing his time on the show. And we get the whole Dorinda effect again, okay? Where it's like Monet has these lapels and all these these pins and accessories and brooches on the lapels of his shirt, collar, jacket. I love it. I love how everyone's doing this. I feel like this might be 2026 trends. I'm gonna need to start having to put like badges all over my collars. I need to buy some badges maybe. But yeah, I think it's cute how they both did that. And then we also see the Dorinda's confessional look that I mentioned last review is actually the outfit she's wearing today. So again, love it. Love it, love it, love it. So we then flash back to the turret last night where we see Lisa say, basically, we're gonna go for Monet, and it kind of sucks because like if Monet didn't say Lisa's name that day, she wouldn't be voting for him. But now that there is suspicion, he has to go. We see Monet get the death note, and it is hilarious that he says he's gonna haunt the hallways and ectoplasm on these hoes. I thought that was cute. We get a confessional of Candace then saying, obviously she took the traitor oath and she understands what it is to be a traitor, and like you have to kill people every night, but she really does say that this murder in particular really hurt her, and she feels really bad about killing Monet because like he trusted her to say his opinions on Lisa, and because he trusted her, that ultimately was his demise. And she seemed really genuine, and I thought it was nice that she wanted to make that confessional. Alan then arrives at the breakfast table, and he is wearing a cute vest that says murderer. Did I do it right? So we see Alan grab Monet's picture frame, and he goes, he came today, but today Monet sashayed away. That was kind of hard. That was like a tongue twister. He said, he came to play, but today Monet sashayed away. And I thought that was a cute little nod to RuPaul's Drag Race, little sashay away. So I thought that was really cute. And he tells them, prepare to be moist. Obviously something with water for today's challenge. We then see the girls, Candace, Kristen, Tara, and Rinna in the hallway chatting, and Kristen basically says like, I like so many people and I'm like getting confused between who I like and who I trust. Rinna's like, oh my god, same. And Kristen is a lot smarter than I thought she was gonna be. I'm not familiar with her from Top Chef, so this is my first time seeing her, but wow, that was like a great realization, and I think it definitely just gave us insight into how she is probably going to be a threat to the Traitors later on in the game. She seems very smart, and she seems like she knows how to influence and sway the group with her opinions without being all rah 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 like how Colton was. But Rinna basically says like, okay, I'm voting for Ron, and then Kristen says why, and Rinna says many reasons, and like hesitates and says, I've been suspicious of him for a while. Rinna, that was the most suspicious encounter you have had in 5 episodes. First of all, many reasons, and then you hesitate, and then you say, I've been suspicious for a while, and you still didn't tell Kristen why you are suspicious of Ron. Girl, I need you to start like thinking like a little bit more like a faithful, please, Rinna. It will help you survive. Thank God for Candace, because Candace steps up and is like, don't worry, I got you. Candace says, so basically there's like a pattern, and It's the same thing he did with Portia. Ron drums up all this sympathy for himself, and then at the round table, he is very articulate with all these theories and all these pieces of evidence and ends up banishing a faithful. We then see Laura, Michael, and Natalie in the bar talking about how last night Colton was totally this ringleader and he essentially changed everyone's minds and got everyone to vote Tiffany. So they think it is possible Colton could be a traitor, and this is what I was saying last episode. The way that Colton is ringleading and being so like rah-rah with his opinions is not a good look for a faithful. So then we see Ron, Eric, and Mark in the library, and Ron says, I just want to say I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be banished. And before I go, let me just tell you, I think the traitors are Dorinda and Michael. And honestly, I feel like he's just mad that Dorinda accused him last night because his only piece of evidence against her was literally that, like, she didn't let him talk last night. And it's like, maybe she didn't let you talk because she's suspicious of you as a traitor. I really don't think he has a lot of good evidence for Dorinda, and obviously we know she's not a traitor. We then see Kristen, Candace, and Jam Jam in the library chatting, and we see Colton come in. Kristen essentially asks him, like, what do you think about Monet being killed? What's your read on that? And he pretty much says, like, who are we going for tonight? And I can't really get a read on what happened to Monet. Jam Jam then says, I'm going for Michael. Candace then says, I'm going for Ron. And Colton really lights up when Candace says she's going for Ron, and he basically just jumps in, he interrupts her, and he says he comes alive at the table, he doesn't do anything in the castle all day, he doesn't do anything in the missions, and as he says that, Kristen stops him and is actually like, stop, wait a minute, Ron actually does participate in the missions, and he actually is in fact a team player, so let's not go trashing him like all the way. So after Kristen kind of gets upset at Colton for accusing Ron of doing nothing at the missions, Kristen and Candace stand up and they decide to walk out towards the bar. As they're leaving towards the bar, Kristen tells Candace, girl, it's Colton. She's like, what? How? How do you know this? And she's like, Kristen says, I can see it in his face. I clocked it. And Colton, she basically explains that Colton found Monet threatening, and that is why Monet got killed last night. She feels like Colton is not a team player, which I 100% agree with. He's not. He very much wants to just be the team captain and tell everyone what to do. And as faithfuls trying to find a traitor, that is not at all how this game works. Kristen then tells Candace, like, pay attention to Colton, pay attention to the people he talks to and the people he's able to herd like sheep, because that will give you a clue onto who the traitors could potentially be. So, great thinking. She's very smart. She's wrong, but I like her thinking. She then relates it back to how when she's working in a kitchen, sometimes chefs will get like so busy leading that they forget working in a kitchen is like a team activity. And so she says, like, she's getting that exact same energy from Colton, which is why she is pretty suspicious of him. Now it's time for the challenge. We see the players arrive at the other end of the castle near the large fountain, so they actually don't have to take a car anywhere today. Wow, congratulations. And we see Alan dressed as like a bloody I don't quite know what he's dressed as. He's dressed as someone who's been stabbed in the heart, like very bloody. But okay, so let me explain. So Alan's wearing like this hat, this red beret hat, and it's like kind of decorated to look like there's blood drips coming off of it. And then he's wearing like a blue shirt with a knife stabbed in the chest and like blood coming out around it. So it's like a bleeding heart situation. Amazing, incredible, absolutely loved it. So then Alan decides to explain the game. It is called the Fountain of the Faithful. And so the way the game works is that there are 8 missing statues hidden around the castle grounds, okay? Now it's time for the challenge. Allie explains the game, and the way it works is that there are basically 8 missing statues hidden around the castle grounds, and so in order to find the statues, they have to climb into the fountain, which is dyed red to look like blood, and find coins. There's a bunch of decoy coins, but there are like 8 real coins that on the other side of the coin have a location. The name of the location is where you can find a statue. So then the team would have to go to that location, find the statue, place a coin in to remove, like to cache the statue, I guess, and then bring the statue back to the fountain. They have to place all 8 statues around in the rightful position. And once all the statues are placed around the fountain, then they can turn the hose on, and if everything is done correctly in the right amount of time, then the fountain will start working again. And another important thing of note is that underneath each statue is either a shield or multiple shields. And there is a twist to the game. Allie explains that if any one player decides to take a shield, then there will in fact be a murder tonight. However, if everyone in the game collectively decides not to take a shield, there will be no murder tonight. So like the traitors are like, bro, we need there to be a murder tonight. Like hopefully someone will take this. But as a group, they collectively decide like, okay, we should all not take shields so that we can all be safe. The question is, will they follow through with that decision? But we do not know yet. So they all separate into groups of 4, and they all climb in the fountain to start looking for these coins. We see a confessional of Candace saying, what if I fall in this water? What if I get a yeast infection? Who's gonna protect my coochie? And that made me giggle. I thought that was hilarious. We finally see the team start getting the statues and bringing them back. We get a confessional of Natalie where she says she doesn't really trust anyone to actually not grab a shield. Like she's like, I trust myself, but I don't trust the rest of this team. So, and I do feel like that's probably a mentality that is more common of the gamers just because they have experience doing challenges like this, and in those situations you really do have to look out for yourself. So I can't fault her for that. We see Maura and Rob's team grab a statue and they decide like, no, we're not getting a shield. Natalie and Johnny's team also decide, no, we're not getting a shield. Importantly, under their statues, there was only 1 shield. Not all statues only have 1 shield underneath though, right? So Candace's team finally gets a coin and they have to run to the woods or whatever to figure out where their statue is. We hear Candace screaming like, am I supposed to run with water in my shoes? And it's like, that seems horrible. And I have a few questions for just the team in general. Now, why didn't anyone take their shoes off before going in the water? I thought it was really weird that everybody left their shoes on and then climbed into the water. Like, I feel like it's maybe a better decision to like take your shoes off, roll your pants up, then go in the water. So like when you climb out, your shoes are dry. I feel like that is like a logical way to do things, but apparently nobody else in the show wanted to do that. It gets even crazier though. We see some people, I think maybe Rena, a few others, are looking for these coins in their hands are in the water. They are searching for coins, and while their hands are in the water, they're wearing gloves. Like not like sterile gloves, not like plastic, like food. They're wearing like cloth, like cotton fleece gloves. And it's like, why are you wearing those when you stick your hands in the water? Then you're just gonna have 2 big wet hands soaking, 2 big wet gloves on your hands, giving you frostbite. Like the logistics of this whole thing made no sense to me. No sense whatsoever. Nonetheless, we see some more teams grabbing statues. Jam Jam's team doesn't take a shield. Then the camera cuts back to people looking for coins, and they're like, okay, there's 1 coin left because they have 7 statues. There's 1 coin left. We have to figure out where it is. Michael ends up finding the final coin, and this man is clearly illiterate because he goes, I found it. It says labyrinth. Labyrinth. Michael? I understand there is a literacy crisis in the United States of America, but that says labyrinth. So that was a bit embarrassing for him, but you know, what does Michael do that's not embarrassing? Unsure. So we see Colton's team running towards the next statue, and we see Colton and Mark ahead of Candace, and I don't remember who else is on their team, maybe Tara. And Colton basically says, like, he thinks someone is going to end up taking a shield. He's like, Mark, I don't know, maybe, like, we should figure out if there's an opportunity for us to take it. Not at all surprised Colton wants a shield with his rah-rah energy. Like, everything's just about him at all times. He is very much giving... You know what? Yeah, I really think Colton might be the most selfish player in the game so far. So that's embarrassing. Or Michael. Is it Michael or Colton for most selfish? We'll give it to Michael just based off his actions later in this episode. Colton, you slid by. Colton, you were saved by Michael. So we see it's Candace and Rinna, not Candace and Tara, sorry. So we see Candace and Rinna, Colton and Mark realize their statue is across the river. They have to walk through a river. And now a river's not a fountain. I understand leaving your shoes on to walk through the river. There could be like rocks, fish. The river obviously seemed very dangerous. It was so dangerous they had to have a rope to hold on to walk across the river. So I understand not taking your shoes off for that. But not taking your shoes off to climb in a little fountain, that makes no sense to me. So yeah, it sucks. They have to walk across the river. They see their statue and they slip the token in, pull up the statue. Underneath the statue, there are 4 shields, 1 for each of them. And so they're like, ooh, this is a good look. Should we take them? Should we not? We don't know. We then see Colton say, like, do you think another group took them? Should we take them? And it's unclear. We don't get to see whether or not they decide to take them. After that, we see Dorinda, Michael, Johnny, and Natalie's team also they end up finding the final statue, the 8th statue. And so they also, underneath their statue, have 4 shields. And the question is, should they take those shields? They really do consider taking them for a second. Natalie says, like, she really just doesn't trust anyone. She only trusts herself. And she says when she's mentioning that, she can see a twinkle in Dorinda's eyes about wanting the shields. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if their team took all 4. Because Natalie was saying she was suspicious of people. Michael is the most selfish person on this entire show. Dorinda, I don't think is... Who else is it? Dorinda and Johnny, I think, are influenceable. So, if the 2 others want to take it, they'd be like, why not? Sure. However, we do not get to see if they did end up taking the shields. We just see them considering it. I personally, though, think they probably did. And so hopefully that also means the Traitors get to commit a murder tonight. And hopefully they can murder Colton because he's suspicious of Rinna, but we'll get to that later. So this is where the game just, like, doesn't start making sense. The game just, they lose me here. They just lost me. So Alan says, 2 minutes left. Okay. We see Natalie and Michael's team running back with a statue. I would say they're at least a football field away, maybe a quarter mile. They seem to be pretty far off. Like, they're far enough away to where Rob is like, oh, I'm gonna run out and help them because they're not running back fast enough. So Rob runs out to meet them. He helps them carry the statue back. They're like running, they're putting the statue into place. After they put the statue into place, they then have to turn the wheel to make the water go. And all of this occurs in 2 minutes. You guys, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't do this editing with the challenges. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I get it's to build suspense, but it almost ruins it because it's just like, it almost ruins the show to an extent, because you do kind of feel like the producers are just, no matter what, gonna set it up to look like there's a photo finish and they did it at the absolute last second. And it's like, I just don't believe that every challenge goes like that. I think they probably have a lot more time than they show us on the clock, like on the TV screen, but it's like they just don't want us to know. It just, something about it, but I don't believe they ran that far in 2 minutes. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for one fucking second. I swear to God. So, however, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But apparently they do make it in time. They put the statue, they turn the water, and the fountain starts spewing all this red water everywhere. And they're like, yay, we completed the mission. And Alan's like, you did complete the mission, but I will not tell you whether or not anyone took the shields. You'll figure that out later. So we see a confessional from Rob. He's like, ooh, I really hope someone took a shield. Then Maura, as they're walking back, like as they get closer to the castle, you hear Maura go, do you think we should take our shoes off before we go inside the castle? And it's like, yeah, what are you talking about, Maura? Like, babe, you should be taking off your shoes before you go in the castle after each and every dirty, mucky, muddy, swampy mission. What about this mission made you think, like, today's the day I'm going to take off my shoes? But I think I should also ask people if I should take off my shoes, because maybe I shouldn't take off my shoes. Your shoes are soaking wet. You should not be walking around the house in those shoes. That's disgusting, Maura. So we see them arrive back at the castle. They grab their dinner. We cut to Steven and Dorinda in the library, and Steven asks Dorinda, okay, so if Ron does go home tonight, who do you think is the next traitor? Who do you think we should go after that? And Dorinda basically says, like, I can only focus on tonight. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't think that was the best response she could have given. You literally could have thrown out anybody else's name, but to say, like, I'm only focusing on tonight kind of seems traitorous. So I don't think that was a good decision for her to do. And then Ron walks in and joins them. And Ron says, like, hey guys, I feel like I'm 90% on who 2 of the traitors are. And Steven's like, oh, okay, like, are you going to tell us right now, or are you going to save it for the round table? Ron's like, no, I'll tell you right now. I think it's Michael and it's Dorinda. And he doesn't point at Dorinda, but mentally he pointed at Dorinda. Dorinda's like, Michael, I have not voted for you once. Why am I all of a sudden a traitor? Ron says, like, Dorinda, it's not tit for tat, and that's true. Like, he's trying to say, like, just because you didn't vote for me doesn't mean I'm not gonna think it's you. Like, I can still think you're a traitor if you don't go up and vote for me. Which is true. That's a fair point. We then see Colton in the kitchen say, if you stop and think about it, every single person who voted for Michael night 1 is gone, except for one, and that's Jam Jam. And everyone's like, oh wow, Rob is like actually pretty surprised by this, which I thought was kind of hilarious, because it's like, that just shows the traitors are doing so good and they maybe don't even realize like how good they're doing, but they're framing Michael without maybe even intentionally framing Michael. So great job, keep it up. We then see Michael walk in the room, and like, he's got his dinner plate and he says, like, I need a seat. And Jam Jam is so kind. Jam Jam is literally like, oh, you can sit here, I'll stand. Which I thought was so nice and so kind, because Michael has literally been attacking you for 4 whole episodes. So the fact that you're just gonna give up your seat to him is like, just shows what a good person Jam Jam actually is. And then things start to turn. So Colton looks at Michael and says, and he's messy as hell for this. I will admit, he's messy as hell for this. He said, I have a question. Does Alan stay in his outfit, or does he change when you meet him in the turret? And Michael, like, for a second kind of looks confused, like, and then he's like, oh, and he like laughs, like, ha ha ha, he like laughs it off. And Ron's like, answer the question. And then Natalie's like, wait, why are you laughing, dude? And Michael's like, I mean, I wouldn't know. And so they're all like, I don't know about that. Like, you look really, really flustered right now. And, you know, you don't get flustered too easily. Like, it seems like we're onto something here. And so Colton looks over at Rob and basically says, like, I mean, this is the only way we're gonna find people, is like, you have to press them and see how uncomfortable they get. And I think he's right about that. You really do, as a faithful trying to catch a traitor, you have to go about it in a very low-key, inadvertent way. Because if the traitors start to think you are after them, aka Monet on Rinna, you get killed immediately. So he's right. And he looks to Michael and then says, am I making you uncomfortable yet? And so Michael shoots back at him and says, you know, for being the Tiffany ringleader, you are being pretty chatty. You'd think you'd be a little more low-key today. Colton says, that's not me. If I miss a shot, I'm gonna shoot again, and I'm shooting at you. Which, it's like they're instantly fighting. They're instantly going back and forth at each other, and it is getting heated. And side note, Colton, I thought you played football. Why are you using basketball analogies? Talk about some touchdowns, okay? So then Michael says, if you come at me tonight, you really are gonna mess yourself up. And Colton goes, that sounds like a traitor threat. Like, are you a traitor? So then Michael says, if I were you, I would be a little bit more humble because your instincts and your sniffer seem to be a bit clogged up. And I said, okay, this is where we begin to cross into just like straight up disrespectful territory. So obviously, the episode is about to take a turn. I should have known the first time I watched this that things were just going downhill right from here. But maybe I've watched too much Housewives. Maybe I'm too desensitized to the screaming and yelling, where I was like, oh, you know, this is just a regular Tuesday. So after Michael tells Colton his ears and sniffer are clogged up, Michael leaves the kitchen and enters into the library. And we see basically Nat explaining what just happened in the kitchen to Mark, Steven, Kristen, and Maura. So Natalie's explaining what happened. Michael just barges in and he goes, if anyone has my name on their mouth, you're gonna make a big mistake. Colton's killers. And it's like, Steven goes, what do you mean? And Steven's right. Michael, the way you talk at people is not cohesive. It doesn't make sense. It's not comprehensible. And you're a flop. So Steven's like, what the hell do you mean by this? Michael's like, well, I just had a conversation with Colton and he basically said that he's voting for me. And I think someone who had egg on their face last night from last night's banishment should be a little bit more humble. Kristen and Mark immediately caught the disrespect too. The two of them stand up and they just walk right out of there. Like, you can tell they are not about to tolerate sitting and listening through this conversation. So as Kristen and Mark are walking down the hallway to get away from Michael's disaster, you see Jam Jam walking towards them, and Kristen's like, Michael's going off. Jam Jam's like, yeah, I already know. I can hear him down. I can hear it. I can hear it from down the hallway. So I'm gonna go figure out what's going on. I assume he's probably saying my name, so let me go get on in there and see if I need to defend myself. So obviously, after Michael's done screaming, nobody wants to be in the same room with him anymore. So you see him walking down the hallway, you see him just like peeking his head into different rooms, and like nobody's in any of these rooms, and you just get the idea that he's looking to fight. He came to tussle. Like, it just seems like he's poking his head in these rooms, not because he wants to find a comfortable place to sit. No, it seems like he wants to fight. It seems like he's going around looking for Colton, looking for trouble. And he finds trouble back in the kitchen. So we basically see Rob and Colton in the kitchen laughing about how Michael got so flustered like 10 minutes ago. And then Kristen walks in. Someone asks Rob, like, okay, what do you think about that? Rob's like, babe, it's Michael. Like, what do I think? What do I think? I think Michael's a traitor. And so as he says this, Michael walks in and he goes, it's Michael what? It's Michael what? Michael turns to Colton then. Like, mind you, Rob was the one who said, it's Michael. Michael comes in, turns to Colton, and points at him and says, you are a fucking traitor. This is a bad ringleader. And like, Rob damn near falls over laughing because he is just in so much shock and disbelief about like, what the fuck is this guy doing? What is he even what is this dude doing? Someone get a grip. So Michael continues. He just keeps poking and poking and poking. He says, you, after last night. And he points at him very aggressively when he says you. He's like, you, after last night, should be humble and keep your mouth quiet. I would be asking questions instead of pointing your fingers. And then he goes, this is a traitor. Natalie and Steven are still in the library. And they're like, my God, I don't even need to be there because I can hear every single thing he's saying from 45 feet away. So Colton then sizes Michael the fuck up. And he says, there's a difference between you and I. If you miss a shot, you're not shooting. You're gonna sit your ass on the bench. But if I miss a shot, I'm still in the game. And like, at this point, Michael's got smoke just coming out of his ears. He cannot believe that Colton is even attempting to like get in some trash talking battle with him, as he calls it. I'm a trash talker. Well, look it, Colton's trash talking you and you don't seem like you can handle it. So Michael then says, because you're a traitor, a manipulative traitor, and you're trying to do another bullshit just like last night. And he just points at him and he yells at him and he says, you're a traitor, this is a traitor, you're a traitor, traitor. He gets up and leaves the room just screaming traitor. He goes, traitor, as he's walking out of the room, just screams, traitor. We get it.
Loser!
And now, after all that, now it's time for the round table. Could it get worse? I didn't think so. I really didn't think so, but here we go. So, and let me just tell you, the entire, I mean, I already said I should have known it was going downhill from here, but like, I feel like from the round table onward, the entire tone of the episode just shifts. Alan says, like, you know, begin your discussions. Who wants to start? And it's crickets. Silence. Everyone's kind of looking around, and so Candace says, like, do we want to address the shouting that was going on in the kitchen? Should we talk about that? Feel like that could be relevant? And Michael says yes. And I quote, so what had happened there was, and this is going to be a long quote, so I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to read this, but this is all very important. So Michael says, what had happened there was, I've been thinking of these words: conniving, colluding, commiserating, Colton, pointing right at him. They all start with a C. Last night is eerily familiar with tonight. Last night, someone was made to feel crazy, sad, and alone. Tiffany. She was isolated and she was pissed off. And the person that put her under fire was conniving, commiserating, Colton. And this man is responsible for chirping in everyone's ear about Tiffany. And this man, after the challenge today, was openly in my face questioning me, and when I walked away, said my name to a group of people, holding court. And this man should be keeping his mouth shut, because last night, this man organized, colluded to get rid of a good faithful. I'm angry, I'm pissed off, and I'm isolated because of him. And no one in this room would be better at holding a secret than you. And Colton says, there it is. Now, we're just gonna read that last sentence. It was a long quote, so we're just gonna read the last sentence once again, in case anyone missed it. Michael said, and I quote, I am isolated because of him. And nobody in this room would be better at holding a secret than you. First of all, absolutely not. Michael, shut the fuck up. No. Like, we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do this. No. And especially not on Bravo. No. So after Michael says this, after he says, and nobody in this room would be better at holding a secret than you, Colton says, you think it was fun for 29 years of my life? And Michael says, oh, no, this has nothing to do with that. And Colton says, you said because I held a secret for 29 years. Michael interrupts him, cuts him off, and says, I didn't say you held a secret for 29 years. Colton shoots back, you insinuated it. Pause. Yes, Michael, you did insinuate that. Johnny basically steps up and says you can't blame someone for being forced into a closet for the majority of their life. Michael interrupts him. Again, enough of this fucking disrespect. Enough of the disrespect. After Colton explains this thing about how everyone who wrote Michael's name down on the first night is dead except for Jam Jam, we get a little bit of a tiff between Dorinda and Ron after Ron claims that she and Michael are the two traitors. And Dorinda basically says, like, you're a housewife, Hunter. I've tried to get to know you. I've tried to get to know your family. I've tried to learn where you live. And I didn't like this. Ron just snaps back at her and he says, I don't want to know where you live. I don't care about your family, and my family's none of your fucking business. Like, it was just... This whole episode is a mess. It was nasty and rude and just disrespectful. I didn't like it at all. Dorinda honestly looks like hurt by this. Like, I don't think anyone has ever probably said that to her before. She seemed like very shocked and hurt. And this is my thing about Ron and his whole, I don't want to get to know people. If I get to know people, that creates bias. That's gonna ruin the game. I'm here to play the game, not to get to know people, not to make friends. I just want to say this. Ron, you're not an AI. You're a human. And this game is meant to be played with humans. If we wanted to just see some fucking analytical AIs figure out who's the murderer, who wins in Mafia, like, you can watch that shit on YouTube. You can see Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini and all the other little robots play a game of Mafia with no humor, no fun, no nothing, and they just see who gets murdered, they vote the next day. Like, these videos exist. If you want to watch an AI play the game based purely off what has happened, you can do that. You can watch that. This show is a human show. It's about people socializing. It's about people getting to know each other. Humans are social creatures. This is a social game. It first of all came off as really evident that Ron wanted to be a traitor. I very much feel that, like, Ron came in this game and said, I will be a traitor, and in order to succeed as a traitor, I will not be making any emotional connections with anyone. And I get that that's like a safety tactic for you. I get that if you want to be a traitor, if you want to win the game, having emotional connections and betraying those people at the end is gonna hurt. It's gonna suck. It's gonna be fucking horrible. You're gonna literally betray people. That's what it means to be a traitor. You have to betray people. You have to lie. You have to cheat. And so I think for Ron to say, like, I don't want to play the game getting to know people, first of all, leave. Because if you're not a traitor, you're not a traitor and you're not playing like a faithful, so leave. Second of all, I don't, even if you weren't a traitor, I don't agree with this mentality. The idea of the game, faithfuls versus traitors, first of all, it's a social game. There's no board, there's no little pieces we use. We play as humans, back and forth. And Ron, I hope you know that as a faithful, one of the strategies to win as a faithful is to build trust among faithfuls. These questions, this bond, these relationships allow the faithfuls to ultimately win. Like, if we're being so fucking for real here, any series, any season in which the faithful have won, the faithful have established trust among the faithfuls. And you don't, I get it, you don't need to trust every faithful, because obviously not everyone is a faithful. But in order to succeed in the game, you have to trust. It's a game about trust. It's a game about trust and betrayal. And if you're gonna play the game as if trust doesn't come into it, unless you're literally talking about who's dead, who's alive, who's at breakfast, who's in a challenge, I think you're missing the whole point of the game, and I almost think you're missing the whole point of the show. No, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm still on this. I'm still on this. I think regardless of cast, regardless of country, like, you can see this in the UK, in the US. You see it with the celebrities, you see it with the non-celebrities. Coming into this game, there's only 3 traitors because the traitors have the upper hand. You realize the traitors have the upper hand because they have trust among each other, because they all took a traitor oath. Right? And so, because this game is about trust, about building relationships, about bonds, you really cannot divorce that from the gameplay at all. There's no way to divorce the trust, friendship, and camaraderie that comes from playing this game together from the gameplay. You cannot separate them. We're still at the round table. Colton basically says to Michael, like, I think you're pretty lucky to have gotten this far. Michael says, who says that? Says you. And immediately Mark and Natalie are like, actually, I am 100% willing to say it too. You are lucky to have gotten this far. And why? It's because you're a loser, Michael. But Natalie then looks at him and says, like, look, Michael, you know that I have suspected you since day one. But today, the way you spoke to Colton, that's enough for me to write your name down. So I think we should all get together and vote him out because of that. And yes, 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 Natalie, yes. And she straight up just said, I don't give a fuck if this guy's a traitor, a faithful, whatever. Get him out of the castle, because the way he's speaking to people is completely unacceptable. And I agree with that. So Eric then affirms Natalie's statement. And, oh God, Michael's such a loser. He goes, says the man with the magic ears. Like, please give it a rest. Please give it a rest. And, like, do we also remember how earlier this episode, I believe, Michael said, like, I'm really self-aware and I know when I'm offending people. How's that going for you now, Michael? Were you self-aware in this moment? No, didn't think so. So Colton basically just says, like, look, I do not want to be in the same room with you. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. So it's like, it's just, this scene is really hard to watch because Michael is just incessant about attacking Colton as a traitor. He's still playing this game of, I need to convince people you're a traitor. And it's like, Michael, we're not finding traitors anymore. You insulted this man as a person. There's no coming back from that. Basically, it's time for everyone to reveal their votes. No surprise. Pretty much everyone pretty much everyone votes Michael off. Johnny says, Johnny is revealing his vote for Michael. He actually says, Michael, I don't care what you are, but I want you out of my castle. And I don't even disagree with that. I don't think anyone has to care at this point. I think we're banishing you because you don't belong in the castle anymore. You lost your chance. Like, it's bigger than a game. Insulting someone's sexuality, their personhood, it's bigger than a game. And we had to pause the game there and just get you right the fuck out. And, you know, big surprise, shocker, 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 Michael's banished. Ooh, yay! And, like, he just has to be a big fucking loser again. He has to be a big fucking loser and say, he goes up to the circle of truth and he says, you guys just voted out the smartest, dopest, best looking faithful. We didn't. Delusion. That's delusion, Michael. You are none of those things. Somebody lied to her. Somebody lied to her. She is none of those things. She is nothing of the sort. So basically Michael leaves the castle and everyone's like, woo! And they start cheersing. Like, never has that ever happened when someone's been banished. So that really just shows how disgusting and horrible and awful you were, Michael. After the round table, we see people go back to the bar. We see Jam Jam pick up the entire, like, wine cooler and just say, excuse me, I'll be needing this, and, like, walk away with it. And that made me giggle. I thought that was cute. We then see Mark, Eric, and Kristen in the hallway discussing Colton. Kristen basically says, if I'm murdered in the next 3 days, you guys, I just want you to know it's Colton, it's him, I'm sure of it. Mark then says he made a list of everyone's name Colton has brought up so far, and it's a lot of names. Basically, he's trying to throw the scent, he's trying to hide the fact that he's a traitor, even though he's not, but that's where the logic is going right now. I also thought, seeing the three of them have this conversation, I really was thinking, like, are these guys the new gamers? Obviously, 90% of the gamers are gone. And so I was kind of thinking, like, who are our smart characters? Who is really in this game with a well thought out strategy? And yeah, after this conversation, I really do think the three of them are very smart. I think they could certainly make it to the end. I think they could certainly figure out Rob, Britta, and Candace, which I don't want to happen. Because obviously, I love my traitors. But as a true lover of this show, I would always prefer to have the faithfuls win. Because I think that just says something about the world. Like, good triumphs over evil. Maybe that's corny, but that's kind of how I see it. So I actually would be happy if the three of them made it to the end. As much as I love Rob, Rinna, and Candace, and as much as I want them to win, I would be very, very happy if they were able to strategize, figure them out, and make it to the end. I think that would be really cool. You then see Candace, Tara, and Johnny in the library talking about Colton too. Johnny says, like, Colton spent all day whipping votes, so we really cannot be trusting him. It's clear he's got a political game going on, and it's very traitorous, right? Johnny then says to Candace, like, do you trust us? And she says, yes, I do. And I said, oh, yes, we love that. Because even though I did just say, I always want the faithfuls to win over the traitors, I think Johnny and Tara are great, great allies to have for Candace. And obviously, you know, the way the game works ultimately depends so much on who the traitors choose to murder. And so it is a question of, are they smart enough to figure out who will figure them out first? But I thought that was a really cute alliance, and I think that alliance could be very, very beneficial for Candace in the long run. Oh, and then this is where things get hairy. This is where things get Harry Hamlin. Colton goes to the billiards room, and we see him talk. Oh. We see Colton, Rob, Dorinda, Maura, and Jam Jam in the billiards room all talking. And Colton says to Dorinda, "Can I ask you a question about Lisa? Is she always this quiet?" And Dorinda's like, "No, she's actually really usually not this quiet. I'm so surprised. Why has she been this quiet? I've actually really been thinking it's surprising how quiet she is at the round table." And everyone's like, ding, 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 ding. Dorinda, shut up. Colton's like, "Okay, so yeah, it's throwing you off too. Like, that's throwing me off." He then says, like, he thinks if Rinna really was the faithful, she'd be kind of playing the game similar to how he is, and she would be doing all these antics and really being a outspoken traitor hunter in the same way that Colton is. Because she's not, he thinks she's a traitor. And this is exactly what I said in the first episode. Rinna trying to play coy is what's going to get her in trouble, because everyone knows that's not her personality. So Maura then mentions that Rinna never brings anyone's name up. Another shot straight to the heart. Horrible. And then Colton says, "It's also incredibly suspicious she voted off Portia the first night." And I said, "This is what I told you, Rinna. I told you this in the first episode, Rinna. You shouldn't have voted off Portia. It is very uncharacteristic of you, and it was gonna come back to bite you in the ass." And look who figured it out? Colton. Colton, the big traitor hunter. Not good. So Colton also says, like, "I want everyone to pay attention to her at breakfast tomorrow morning. If you notice, she's always incredibly extra. She's very dramatic. She's very over the top. She seems shocked whenever someone's murdered. And maybe she's acting. Maybe she's overcompensating for the fact that she's a traitor." And, like, just all of this evidence, I'm shaking in my boots. I'm so worried about Rinna. Jam Jam then just takes another spear, takes another dagger to the heart. He says, "Well, Rinna gave us the best description of what happened in the woods last night. Like, she's not a traitor." And Colton fucking turns around and said, "Bro, why the fuck do you think she gave us the best depiction? She saw it 3 times. She watched it happen 3 whole times. Of course she had the best depiction. She saw it 3 whole times." Oh, and I'm just, oh. Rob tries to save face. He tries to help her a little bit. He's like, "You know, I really have never even considered Rinna, and I actually really don't talk to her too much, so I don't know." And it's like, "Rob, you did what you could. You know, he can only do so much. He really can only do so much." He says, like, he's gonna try his best to help his fellow traitors, but he really says, like, "There's only so much I can do." And it's making me stressed. It's making me so stressed. After this, we see Rob walk up the stairs and we hear Johnny go, "Oh my god, he's so hot, I can't even look at it." Same. I thought that was hilarious. Now it's time for everyone else to go to bed. We finally get to see the traitors in the turret. They all arrive. They take their hoods down. Candace mentions... No, I'm sorry, not Candace. Rob mentions that Colton is sus of Rinna. And Rinna and Candace are like, "Fuck, this is bad." He mentions that they're very concerned that she's too quiet. He mentions Dorinda brought that up too, and she's like, "God damn it, why does Dorinda have to know who I am?" He also mentions how Colton said she witnessed the murder in the woods 3 times, and that's why she had the best account of it. But Rob does not mention, at least we don't see Rob mention to Rinna, that Colton mentioned pay attention to her at breakfast because she's always way too over the top, way too dramatic. And I really hope Rob wasn't trying to play her dirty. I really hope he wasn't trying to throw her under the bus or, like, just conveniently leave something out so that she gets exposed. I really, really hope the producers just, like, cut it out. You know, like we didn't need to see everything he said, maybe. Oh, but I'm stressed. I'm praying for my girl Rinna. And the episode ends there. Oh my God. I feel like I've been recording this video for so long. And the heat has gone on like 3 times. I'm so sorry for all that background noise. It's time to give you my quick predictions for who will be murdered and who will be banished next week. Let's do... Well, I guess first we have to say, will there be a murder? If there is, who gets murdered? Will there be a murder? I will go ahead and say yes. I'm pretty convinced Michael, Dorinda, Natalie, and Johnny all took the shields. So I think there will be a murder. Who will be murdered? I think there's a strong possibility Colton gets murdered. But as I say that, I also realize that there's a lot of suspicion on him as a traitor at the moment. So maybe the traitors will instead keep him and hope he gets banished. I do think the traitors see him as a pretty strong threat though, so I could see them killing him just because they don't even want him to have the opportunity to bring up Brenna's name. Yeah, I think if anyone does get murdered, it's Colton. Maybe Steven. I could see him randomly getting murdered. But those are my 2 options. Who will be banished next is a tough question. Will it be Ron? Will it be Colton? Will it be Rinna? Will it be someone else? I think we have a very strong case for Ron. I was actually a little bit surprised today at today's roundtable how many people voted for Ron instead of Michael. It was actually like 4 or 5 people who voted for Ron instead of Michael, which I think Ron got less vote. I think Tiffany got more votes to be banished than Michael did. Obviously they were both overwhelming majority banished, but I do think there was more votes for Ron last night. So I could see, especially with his whole like either exonerate me or let me go, I could entirely see specifically Candace leading charge against him and deciding to really go hard for him at the round table. But I don't think that would be in Candace's best interest to really lead the charge hard against him, especially knowing he is a faithful. If Colton doesn't get murdered, I can see him throwing Rinna's name out there. And I actually, with the traction he's gained so far, I can really see Rinna taking a tumble. I really don't want that to happen, but I could see it happen. Who else could be banished? Rinna, Ron, Colton. Will Colton be banished? That's a good question. I think no. I do not think he will be banished next episode. I could see him being banished in 2 episodes. I think, especially with the whole Michael situation from this roundtable, I can see people rallying for Colton next episode. Unfortunately, maybe getting Rinna out. But then after that, but if Colton got Rinna out as a traitor, then people wouldn't go up against Colton again. And he would actually have some credibility as a faithful. I'm gonna say Ron's gonna be banished next episode. That's what I want to happen, and I don't want to think about anything else. Entirely possible that Rinna leaves. Maybe not entirely possible. I'd say 35% chance, which is far too much for comfort. But she did it to herself. You did it to yourself, Rinna. I'm sorry. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed. I love you all so much. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.